Welcome to Earnings Intelligence. We're going to jump in a time machine today and go back to 1999. The dot-com bubble was in full swing. Tech stocks were going vertical. And in the middle of all of it, Warren Buffett was having his worst year ever. This is a story about what happens when a legendary strategy seems to be failing, and what it can teach all of us about having conviction when things get tough. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and look at the numbers that were causing an absolute panic. In 1999, the S&P 500 soared up 21%, a fantastic year for the market. And Berkshire Hathaway, it gained a measly 0.5%. Oof, I mean, can you imagine the headlines, the pressure? The entire world was getting rich on tech stocks, and Buffett's investors were basically standing still. Everyone was asking the same question. Has the master finally lost his touch?
So how did Buffett react? Did he make excuses, blame the crazy market? Nope. He gave himself a D. He came right out and called it his worst performance in 35 years. That kind of brutal honesty from a CEO, well, you just don't see it. It's practically unheard of, and it really set the tone for this entire incredible annual report.
So this first part is all about accountability. See, Buffett didn't point fingers at the Federal Reserve or irrational exuberance or anything like that. He did something pretty amazing. He pointed the finger squarely at himself.
You gotta love the classic self-deprecating humor here. He took full ownership, saying flat out that the problem was the poor performance of the stocks he picked. There was just no hiding. But this wasn't just him being humble for the sake of it. No. He was setting the stage for a masterclass in how to think about value when everyone else in the market seems to have gone completely mad.
So here's the big question. If he knew how badly he was doing, why didn't he panic? The answer, and it's a huge one, is that he was playing a totally different game. He defines value in a way that's completely alien to the short-term thinking that had taken over Wall Street.
And this right here. This distinction is everything. The market back then was obsessed with book value. That's just an accounting number, what the assets are worth on paper. It's the number that gave him that dismal 0.5% gain. But Buffett, he only cares about intrinsic value, what a business is truly worth based on all the cash it's going to produce for the rest of its life. That's the only number that really matters to him.
You know, the analogy he uses in the report is just brilliant. He says, to think about a college education. The tuition you pay, that's the book value. But the intrinsic value is the extra money you'll earn over your entire career because you got that degree. For a really great business, just like a great education, the true value is way higher than what it says on the price tag.
So Buffett was basically telling his shareholders, hey, you're all staring at the tip of the iceberg. That stagnant book value was just what you could see, but underneath the surface was the massive, real value of his companies. I mean, think about a business like See's Candies. The brand, the customer loyalty, that's worth way more than the accountants say the buildings and candy-making machines are worth. He was looking at the whole iceberg.
This brings us to Berkshire's secret weapon, the engine that powers the whole thing, its insurance businesses. And to really get that, we need to talk about one of the most powerful and maybe misunderstood concepts in all of finance. It's called float.
Buffett's definition is just perfect. Float is money we hold but don't own. Think about it like this. You pay your car insurance premium today, right? But you might not get into an accident for months or years or ever. In that time, Berkshire gets to take your money and invest it for their benefit. It's basically a giant interest-free loan from their customers.
The process is actually pretty simple, but it is incredibly powerful. 1, the premiums come in the door. 2, Berkshire invests all that money. And 3, way down the road, they pay out any claims. And here's the magical part. If they're good at underwriting the insurance, this massive pile of money costs them nothing to use. It's like having a multi-billion-dollar line of credit with a 0% interest rate. Just a staggering advantage.
And just look at the scale of this thing. At the end of his very bad year, Berkshire was sitting on more than $25 billion of this float. That's the war chest. That's the fuel that allows you to ignore all the short-term noise and just keep playing the long game.
But look, having a brilliant financial structure isn't the whole story. What really makes Berkshire different, especially in a moment of crisis, is its philosophy about people. And the best way to get it is through a little story Buffett tells in the report.
It's about a furniture store they own called R.C. Willey. The manager, a man named Bill Child, had a strict principle. His stores were never, ever open on Sundays. Now, if you know anything about retail, you know that Sunday is a huge shopping day, so this was a major handicap. But Bill wouldn't budge. So when Bill wanted to expand into a new city, Buffett was understandably a little skeptical that this no Sundays policy would work there. So Bill makes this absolutely incredible offer. He says, "Warren, don't you worry. I'll put up the $9 million to build the store myself. If it works, you can buy it from me at my exact cost. If it fails because of my principles, I'll take the entire loss."
So what happened? The store was a smash hit, and Bill, true to his word, sells it to Berkshire for exactly what he paid. He even refused to take any interest on the $9 million of his own dollars that he'd had on the line for 2 years. That is the kind of partner Buffett bets on. People with insane integrity who think and act like owners.
Now, that story isn't just a feel-good anecdote. It's the core of everything. It explains why Buffett was sitting on the sidelines during the dot-com bubble. He wants partners like Bill Child, and he wants to own businesses that he can understand inside and out. It's his famous circle of competence. And back then, things like tech and patents, they were simply outside his circle.
This quote from the report just says it all. In 1999, staying out of tech stocks made him look like a fool. But it wasn't a mistake, it was discipline. He refused to get restless and swap a rational process that had worked for decades for what was basically just a hope of getting rich quick.
So what's the golden nugget here? What's the ultimate lesson we can pull from Berkshire's worst year? It's actually not about stock picking or financial tricks. It's something much deeper. It's about conviction.
The real story of 1999 isn't the 0.5% return. It's the ironclad conviction on display. It was Buffett's absolute refusal to abandon his core philosophy, even when the market, the media, and maybe even his own investors were screaming that he was a dinosaur who'd lost his touch. It took incredible discipline and patience.
And it really helps to just zoom out for a second. While everyone obsessed over one bad year, this was the long-term reality. From 1965 all the way to the end of 1999, Berkshire's value had grown at an average of 24% per year. One D-grade year doesn't erase 35 years of straight A's. And Buffett closed this letter not with an apology, but with this quiet, powerful statement of conviction. And then he reminded everyone of the ultimate proof. More than 99% of his family's net worth was in Berkshire stock. He wasn't just managing other people's money. His entire fortune was on the line, right there with them. That is real skin in the game. And that really brings us to the final question for all of us. We have hindsight. We know the dot-com bubble burst and that Buffett's patience was rewarded spectacularly. But if you put yourself back in that moment, in all that pressure, it forces you to ask, when is being willing to look wrong, even foolish, in the short term, the only way to be truly right in the long run?